Time for a boost and break. Wait, I didn't give Tiff her opportunity to sing.
And now it's time to boost or break or boost or break. Are you gonna boost? Are you gonna break? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? I don't remember the song ever. So you gonna boost, you're gonna break.
I'm going to take a break. It's hard to pick a break these days. A couple of things I was toggling between. Should we talk about Walmart's Juneteenth red velvet flavored ice cream?
I saw that.
Or could we talk about Wells Fargo again, proving they are the worst, the worst, the worst? There was this crazy article in the Times about how people at Wells Fargo, whistleblowers, have come out and said that they held basically fake interviews with diverse candidates just in case they were ever audited. They were sort of worried, for many open positions, employees would interview a quote unquote diverse candidate, this article says, the bank's term for a woman or a person of color, in keeping with an informal policy. And then these people noticed that they would be interviewed for a job that had already been promised to someone else. And when this whistleblower spoke out, shout out to Mr. Bruno, who was fired. And he says that Wells Fargo fired him in retaliation because he was going around saying these fake interviews are inappropriate, morally wrong, etc. Yes. But he wasn't the only one. They had like half a dozen former Wells Fargo employees who verified that this was happening. And what a waste of everyone's time.
I'm just like, how can you get any, like, the fact that the city of New York said, we're not doing no more business with y'all because of these is there like literally, do you wake up and say, how can we be as terrible as possible? How can we be what can we do? Like, honestly, but that's why we moved over. We left, the Fargo, and not to say that like any other bank is like so great, but I'm like, damn. Like, big banks are not my fave at all, but once you have a certain size business, it's hard to do like the smaller banks just because there's certain things that you just need, And so, but yeah, we were with them for years, and just every time you turn around, you're just like the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. Wells Fargo is actually my first, because before it was Wells Fargo, it was called like Wachovia. Before Wachovia, it was called something else. And so I was with the bank before the bank before the bank. Like, it was my first bank account. I forget what it was called, like the actual, like, first, whatever the bank was called before. And then it became like something else, then became Wachovia, then became Wells Fargo. But I was with that bank 4 banks back. So this was like, my very first bank account. And I'm like, sis, y'all are just, even though I have like 20,000 bank accounts and it took like so long to switch everything over, I said, I can't.
They have just continued to show their ass. I just don't see how any people of color could bank with this place. Like, they're the same bank where the CEO basically said, we'd love to have more diverse candidates, but it's hard to find qualified Black candidates. Remember that from like June 2020? My God. And then last August, they paid $8 million to settle a Department of Labor claim that it discriminated against more than 30,000 Black job applicants for positions. Settled a case in 2017, $36 million, class action lawsuit, again, for not advancing Black financial advisors and financial advisor trainees at the company. Like, bad.
They're going to watch. They're going to just rename
bad
themselves.
News bears.
They're going to rename themselves.
Bad news bears. They need to just burn it down, I guess. I mean, not literally, but just start from scratch. Like, can we just overhaul everything? But yeah, that got my blood going this past week. That and Walmart's red velvet freaking flavored Juneteenth ice cream, because why not make a mockery of a holiday we fought so hard to have?
I mean,
honestly, that could have been worse if it had been like watermelon flavored, or
yes,
it was like the Juneteenth fried chicken or something like that.
I know,
but God, who the hell is in marketing?
That's why I just want to be like, are there no Black people there? It's like when Chevy had the Nova,
and they were like, yeah.
No,
I don't know. I want to think that there weren't, but I don't know. It's just
or maybe they weren't listening, because sometimes people are like, no, people are gonna love it, but well, I am going to boost. Well, I don't even know how to say it. I'll just say this: so when I went to Jordan, I didn't know at first, but so my friend Cabral was like, oh, my friend Marion is going to Jordan. Marion is a flight attendant, and I was like, oh, and so I didn't realize, but the person who was hosting the trip, the tour, he himself was a flight attendant. And so 90% of the people who were on this tour, maybe like 20 or so people, no, maybe like 15, they were all flight attendants. So 90%, there's maybe like just a handful of us that weren't, like 3 or 4. So they all knew each other. I was like, oh, they all flew with United. And I was like, okay. So it was so interesting how different the conversation is with people who travel. It was, and it just set a tone for me that said that, because on the outside, if you didn't know what they did for a living, you would have thought, because of the type of conversations, that everybody was independently wealthy. Because the conversation, for example, went something like this. Oh, I really want to get, braces or something like my veneers or whatever it is. You know what? Go to my guy in Vietnam. He's amazing. I just feel like I'm getting a little older. I'm getting sunspots. Oh, I've got the best guy. He's in India. Literally, people had a skin person in India. They're a dentist in Vietnam. They're a doctor in Colombia. So they sounded like these independent, very wealthy, posh people. And not to say that, as flight attendants, you don't make good money, but that's a good regular person job, And it just kind of like a light bulb went on in me, is that oftentimes we say we can't have a certain lifestyle because honestly, our thinking is limited. If you're someone who's like, I would really love to travel the world, you honestly don't have to necessarily wait until you're this millionaire, that there are alternative careers that allow you to do that, And so, because they were telling me, like, for example, like maybe my flight was like, $1,200 round trip to Jordan. But because they're flight attendants and they get discounts, or sometimes you just pay, if you fly standby, maybe you just pay taxes, it was like under $200 for them. And so it just made it that much more affordable. So I just think that, so many of us get locked into, it's almost like first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the baby carriage. And it's like, well, you can actually have a baby whenever you want. Well, you can actually, there are so many alternatives to get the end desired goal that you're wanting. So I'm hoping that, I say all that to say, for you to just expand your mind and ask yourself, what is actually my desired outcome? And am I taking a long route? Because maybe there's a shorter route to live that lifestyle that I'm saying that I want. Because when I tell you, Mandy, like, if it took me a couple of days to realize they were all flight attendants, because I was like, wow, these people are wealthy, because they were just talking about all their trips. Like, oh, remember that time in Kenya? Oh, girl. And remember this time in Zimbabwe or wherever? And I'm just like, and then I was like, wait, y'all are flight attendants? And then I was like, oh, they fly, not for free, but damn near in comparison to what a regular ticket would cost. And yeah, so it was just an amazing trip to meet those amazing people, because they were really so awesome, but also to just see life through the eyes of people who see the world regularly and who understand that there's more than one way to achieve that type of lifestyle. So I just encourage people to, like, I'm not saying encourage you to be a flight attendant, but I'm encouraging you to figure out what your desired outcome is and ask yourself, are you taking the long route to it? And maybe that there's an easier route where you can enjoy it now. You don't have to wait.
I think you're also just talking about the importance of human connection and, like, actually being around people who help you see things that are possible that maybe you weren't seeing. And it's like putting yourself in other people's paths so that you come in contact with those types of people. Of course, like putting yourself on a trip in Jordan would put you in the path of people who are adventurous and willing to try different medical treatments in different countries, it sounds like, which is all great. But I think for anyone, it's like, just get out of your comfort zone, go outside your zip code, go outside of, your immediate circle, because that's where it's really just seeing other people, living the life that they're leading and being inspired by that. And like, oh, that's possible for me. I feel like I'm constantly getting to experience that so often, just because of the virtue of like the type of work that I do and like getting to talk with you and everything. And it's really powerful. Yeah. Hopefully this show itself is like one of those small ways people sort of feel like they can start to think bigger, and start to expect more in a different way. And like you said, going from, we tell ourselves there's all these rules, but it's not like that at all.
Most of them are self-imposed rules, and you're realizing
self-imposed.
Yes. Like, well, I can't do that because I got to do this.
Who told you that?
Yes.
I told myself that. Okay, well, tell yourself something different.
Yes. Yes. We get so locked up into like, no, it has to be done this way. It's like, does it? You know, but sometimes you need
Don't
someone
make
else
me
who's
pack
doing
up
it
and
differently.
move to Thailand because I keep saying I can just do it. Me and Rio can learn Thai. He'll be fine.
For real.